Hello everyone, my name is Clay, and today I'm going to talk about the genocide in Sudan, which started in the Darfur region in 2003. This is one of the most serious examples of violence and inequality in modern times, and it connects strongly to what we learned in Chapter 9 about race, ethnicity, and social conflict. Some of the social or ethnic groups involved in Darfur, they're the non-Arab African ethnic groups, mainly the four Mazalit and Zaghawa people, were attacked by the Arab-controlled Sudanese government and their militia group called the Janjaweed. According to what we studied about the social construction of ethnicity, these groups aren't really different biologically. They were treated differently because of how society labeled them and based off things like language, skin color, and culture. The government saw Arab identity as better and treated African ethnic groups as less than. So the conflict started because of unfair treatment, lack of resources, and racism. For years, drought and lack of farmland have caused tension between Arab herders and African farmers. When African groups asked for equality and better rights, the government used the Janjaweed militias to attack them, and the government wanted to keep power and control, so they used ethnic differences as an excuse to kill and drive out entire communities. This shows how social inequality and discrimination can turn into extreme violence, especially when one group has too much power. Some people call what happened in Darfur ethnic cleansing. It's a term I found in one of my resources, but it's also considered a genocide. Ethnic cleansing pretty much just means trying to remove a group from a region, while genocide means trying to completely destroy that group. In Darfur, vill- villages were burned, people were killed, and women were assaulted, not just to move them, but to erase their communities entirely. The United Nations, as well as the International Criminal Court, said this was genocide, and Sudan's president at the time, Omar al Bashir, was charged with several war crimes. So, how long it lasted, as well as the impacts of the genocide. The genocide began in 2003, and although it was large scale fighting, that slowed down after a few years. Violence is still happening in some areas today. More than 300,000 people were killed, and about 2.5 million people had to flee their homes. Many live in refugee camps, as well as thousands more died from hunger and disease. The war also destroyed schools, homes, and many farms in the area, leaving Darfur in extreme poverty and trauma. Some other social conflict patterns. This genocide also shows other patterns, such as like expulsion, where entire groups were forced to leave their home, segregation, because survivors were kept in refugee camps, separated from the rest of the country, and acculturation. The government tried to force African groups to give up their culture and adopt Arab traditions. These patterns just show how the government used both violence and cultural control to keep power. Millions of people ran away from Darfur to find safety. Many fled to Chad, and others went to Egypt, Central African Republic, as well as South Sudan. Some were also later accepted as refugees in Europe, Canada, and the US. This mass movement of people created one of the largest refugee crises in the world, and many families are still displaced nearly 20 years later. Some people that have tried to help and some humanitarian aid. Several international groups have tried to help the people. The United Nations, like I mentioned earlier, and African Union sent peacekeepers. Doctors Without Borders, Save the Children, and World Food Program provided medical care, food, and as well as water. And even though they helped, many people believe the world reacted too slowly, and thousands of lives could have been saved with earlier action. Some things that I found important from my research: something as simple as ethnic identity, which is a social label, not a real biological difference, can be used to justify these terrible violent acts. The genocide in Darfur shows how dangerous racism and inequality can become if they are ignored. And it also reminds us how important it is to speak up for human rights and treat all people equally, no matter where they're from. Um, and that's all I got.